I watched a video this week, a documentary about a man called Nikola Tesla. Now, I've written about him in my books over the years and read a great deal about him. But to mainstream society, he is a kind of a figure that you probably wouldn't have heard of if you weren't into this kind of information. Because he was a Serbian who was born and brought up in what is now Croatia. And he was a genius. He was way ahead of his time. But some of the things that he came up with and their potential applications were not what the system, the cabal, wanted. And so they, in effect, destroyed him. But looking at his life and what has happened since is very instructive, both in the way that it shows how far ahead of his time he was, but also in the way that some of his understandings of reality and how to work with it and make it serve your purpose, how that today is being used in a very malevolent way. Tesla was born in 1856 and he died in a New York hotel room in 1943, officially of a heart attack. And despite all the amazing things that he developed and was responsible for, including today's electrical system, he ended up dying penniless, in effect. And he had many ideas, many trains of research and themes of research that were going on when he died, and information and documentation of other research that he'd done in his life. He died at the age of 86, so he lived a long life. And these documents and this research material was seized when he died by the FBI. And there have been many suggestions and a lot of speculation about what was in them and what information the authorities therefore gleaned from these documents. But what can be said is that so much of the high-tech developments, not least in the realm of wireless communication, was actually first instigated, first perceived by Nikola Tesla. And to go beyond the concrete-like limitations of mainstream science, you have to think differently. In fact, you have to go beyond thinking, beyond thought. Thought is a very low level of intelligence and perception, very low. Oh, he's got a great mind. Oh, really, I am sorry. What we need is not even a great, but an open, expanded awareness, consciousness, which allows us to go beyond, if you like, 5 sense thought, to tap into the realms of infinite awareness, infinite knowledge, infinite inspiration, which is why great scientists like Tesla talked about the fact that they used not their mind so much for their great insight, but their intuition. Intuition doesn't come from the head. We don't go, I've just had this intuitive. We go, I just know. This thinks, this knows. And so this is the inspiration point from which Tesla and others like him got so much of their inspiration. And you've only got to look at some of his quotes to see where he was and where he was coming from. Here's one. The scientists of today think deeply instead of clearly. Think deeply instead of clearly. One must be sane to think clearly, but one can think deeply and be quite insane. That's absolutely right, because you can think how to create an atomic bomb. You can think deeply to do that, but it's insane to actually build it. But because we have a science, a materialistic science, overwhelmingly, that can, well, I'll tell you how I put it over the years. The difference between cleverness and wisdom. And wisdom also comes from the heart, from widened, expanded consciousness. It's clever, to take the same analogy, it's clever to be able to build an atomic bomb, but it's not wise to do so. And as I've said in my books over the years, cleverness without wisdom is the most destructive force on earth. And that is what we call modern science. Emphasis on the call. That's what it is. Overwhelmingly, again, it's like cleverness without wisdom. And therefore, it has become, look around, not least in terms of the environment, it has become, because of that, the most destructive force on earth. So another Tesla quote. Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality. I've been on about that for years and years and years and years and years. It's what I called in the last Wembley event. The law that says bollocks begets bollocks, because if your prime point of looking at everything is bollocks, then everything that comes from that foundation bollocks must be bollocks. And so we have a science that perceives, even though it's got quantum physics to show this is rubbish, bollocks, it still perceives from its foundation perceptions that the world is solid. It's not. The world is not solid. I've explained all this many times in many places. And Tesla was realizing this. It's why he was able to go beyond where the other scientific limitations were. And so if you are looking at the world as if it's solid, then obviously the conclusions you come to from that basic flaw must be expressions of that flaw. And that's why science has been going round and round and round and round, while people that could see beyond that, like Tesla, were way ahead of him. Same with people like Leonardo da Vinci, even further back, and even further ahead of their time.